There, that should be better for everybody out there in Facebook land. Good morning. Here at the AoT Workshop, we're going to be going live, broadcasting as much as we can with it. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Really quickly, there is a portion of this workshop that is strictly proprietary. During that time, we will be bringing up a "We'll be right back soon" screen until that's over, and then continue on with the rest of the day. But until we get to that point, we're going to be just broadcasting this. So we're going to turn the camera around here in a second and try to make sure we're angled in right. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. Look forward to this. So y'all just give me a quick second. I'll get there. All right, Harrison, make sure we're pointing out where we are. For everybody else in the chat, if you can still hear me, just as a quick little heads up, if you have any questions during the portions that we are broadcasting, type it up here, and we'll try to ask it to those speakers at that time. Can't really promise anything on audio. Hope it'll be good. It's not. All right. So we're just going to leave you up in this until we get to the portion that we have to cut it off. Again, after that part of it's over, we'll resume broadcast. There'll be some buffer music in the background playing and a nice little graphic. And Harrison's giving me a look like I'm crazy, and I'll show him how to do that here in a second. So.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but I'm still looking at you like I get to sit next to the do I? Yes, sir. I see you talking.
Good.
I'm not going to be in the way in front of you.
Oh, no, we're fine. We're fine.
If I stand up, I'll not.
Oh, wow. Oh, no, not a minute. You don't expect that to start on time.
They should separate the patterns. They should what? They should separate you two.
Well, that's what they did at Louisiana. Not throwing glycerin. More like not Goldust Twins, you remember them? Goldust Twins, you remember them? Oh, you're kidding. He was too young. Yeah, back in the early 50s, late 40s, it was detergent, washing detergent, Goldust Twins. It was two black twins. That's what people.
I wasn't born to 59.
I have to be dead. Was he?
He's 86. In fact, he does.
So you're only 10 years older than my son. What are you talking about?
All right, it's 9 o'clock. So we've got people out in the hall. We need to get them all in. Anybody see Carl?
No, I don't walk down this way.
If you don't hear him, he's not here.
He may be lifting back here.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started because, as our commander-in-chief says, he's a school teacher and he likes to start on time. So we're going to try to follow his example today and stay on time. So welcome to the AoT Workshop. This is I'll just use the number that I can do with national. This is the 127th annual AoT Workshop. It's more like the third or fourth one we've done now. First one outside of Alabama. We've had some people. I went to the Tennessee Division reunion a couple of years ago, and I was asked directly, why are they always in Alabama? It was because the Alabama camps, they vote to hold one. So that's all it takes is somebody to say we want to hold one, and we try to put it together. And this time, of course, the one in October was canceled that we were going to do at Columbia, and we moved it here. So glad everybody came out, and so we're going to get started so that you don't come to hear me talk, you came to hear stuff you're interested in. So if you would, let's stand and do a flag salute. And we have a brand new camp commander here, Norman Alexander of the Graves Camp in out of Alabama. They just chartered Tuesday night. So would you do the Confederate flag and the flag of
I salute the Confederate flag with affection, reverence, and undying devotion to the cause for which it stands.
And Chief of Staff Adabal, since he's in the Army capacity today, if he's going to do, I guess he'd be the pledge to the SCP. Charge. These charge. Right.
Y'all join in if you have any rain, get your card, and probably back to your card. But to you, sons of
Confederate veterans, we will commit the vindication of the cause for which you fought. Your strength will be given the defense of the Confederate soldier's good name, the guardianship of his history, the emulation of his virtues, the perpetuation of those principles which he loved and which you
and which you
love
love also, and those
those
ideals
ideals make you glorious, and which you also cherish.
And I was telling the police Eric today that I always, I was running down to Kinsey, that I always had a line that was given by General Stephen G. Lee in 1906 to the SCV. And for the Alabama brothers that are here, it was given to then SCV Commander-in-Chief Thomas McAdory Owens from Alabama. All right, can we have a chaplain from any camp or division that's here?
Former chaplain.
All right, Tom, if you would lead us in invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the many blessings that you provide for us each day. Father, we thank you for this weekend. We thank you for this time that we were able to spend together in fellowship and to learn more about those things that we should be doing as members of this great organization. Father, be with those that are speaking today, give them a ready remembrance of those things that they want to share and they accomplish their purposes today. Father, and as we end our meeting today, and many of us will be heading back to our respective homes, we pray for your safety on each of us as we return home. This prayer we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Hey, Connor. While we're waiting on mics, I know we got people here from Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi. Anyone, any other division is represented other than Louisiana? All right. So we got three of them anyway. So we're going to ask Mike to come up and give you guys some announcements, maybe about lunch and anything else you would like.
Good morning. All right. Really don't have any announcements. Important stuff. We do have coffee in the back. Restrooms, if you go down the hallway right before you get to the front desk up here, make the left and then make the right. And it'll be on the left-hand side. And then lunch, I believe they're going to they'll bring it down here probably around 11:30 or so, maybe a little bit earlier. So anyway, we should have plenty. Other than that, if y'all need anything, just ask me. I'd like to help, and I'm glad y'all are here. Glad everybody made it. We still got a few minutes to show.
All right, we've got originally Matt Singleton, but he's not going to be here. So what I've asked, I saw a couple of them. There's one that wasn't in the room. I'm going to bring up Connor Vaughn, the Mississippi Division Commander, Mike McMurray from Alabama, and Tom Wood will be representing Tennessee since Joey's not here. So if y'all want to come up and welcome your members that came from your respective divisions. Yeah, this was the last thing because I didn't know
was the last minute thing. On behalf of Mississippi Division and my Mississippians, welcome, glad we're all here. Let's make this a great conference. Let's take what we learned today and apply it in our division. Just one little thing. If everybody looks back in the back corner, you'll see the camouflage and orange camera. Say hi to everybody watching the SCB chat. We are broadcasting part of this today. So, yo, no, right now we're live, Mike. Anyway, I will say this, Carl cost me $20 here for normally he's late today, but he's somewhere on time, so.
I don't know who's budget $20.
It was loose.
Moose, you're the only one in this room that has confidence in your army counselor.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name's Tom Wood. I'm the Tennessee Division Adjutant. I'm here to represent the division today. Joey Nolan, our commander, emailed me last night about 10 o'clock and said his whole family's got the virus, including him. So we hated to miss today, but I'm glad to move forward. So thank all those of you from Tennessee for coming today. I think we're well represented here today. I think it's about third, isn't it? So that's great. So again, thank you all for coming. Look forward to the workshop.
Yeah, but, I'm Mike McMurray, Division Commander for Alabama Division. I'm glad to be here, glad to see all of you here. Thank you, Tennessee and Mississippi for hosting this, appreciate y'all taking the burden for a little while from us, that's good. And I like to see a lot of my Alabama Tennessee here. Welcome all of you, and I hope you take a little bit of something. I told somebody I didn't really need to be here, because I thought I knew everything. That don't ever happen, because somebody comes in with a question that you can't answer. So, glad to be here, thank you.
All right, before, we're gonna get started with the speakers and stuff. Last night at supper, we were talking about, one of the things that we want you to do is ask questions. We don't want you just to sit there and write stuff down. If you actually have a question that you need Eric to answer, something that's going on at headquarters, and you don't know how to do, and he can answer that question. But I'm going to leave it up to each one of the speakers, whether they want to take their questions as they're doing their presentation, or do they want to wait till it's over? And if they wait till their presentation is over, then write the question down on your itinerary or something, and they will be happy to do it. If we run a little longer because of questions, that's fine. In fact, I would prefer that we run a little over than get done early and get everybody's questions. We don't want you to ride back to your respective hometowns and then say, man, I wish I'd asked him this. We would rather you do it now while you're here. This is a workshop. They're not just up here to give a speech or to talk about this is how we do it. This is for you to learn. And the only way you can learn is to let them know, I don't know how to do it. Last year, or a couple years ago, we actually had a guy that was trying in Salesforce to go in and change the address of a member. He wasn't getting his magazines and stuff, and he'd done it 2 or 3 different times, and he just could not make it work. Eric's not the Salesforce guy as far as membership. There's other people that do that, but he knew how to fix it. And he went live and went in there and did it, and then the guy goes, oh, I forgot to get saved. It won't change if you don't get saved. But he saw what he did wrong because Eric went in live and did it. So if you've got questions, ask. But each one of these guys will say either ask me now or wait till I'm done. Because as one person told me last night, when I stopped, I sort of had this age thing that I can't remember exactly where I was.
Quit talking about me.
I didn't call no names.
You just snitched
But,
on yourself.
but anyway, so it'll be just depending on how they want to do it. All right, so our first presenter is Eric Purvey, Membership Coordinator from Headquarters.
There is a place, nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home, constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
I got into the SCV after receiving an award back when I was in high school. I had no clue what the SCV was. All I knew was that it was a rebel flag and it was supposed to be racist. I decided I would go and look further into it. Everything that we're taught from a very young age is that the Confederacy was wrong. They were treasonous. But it turns out it wasn't just because the South had slaves. This was because of a very fundamental principle of big government. There's nothing more American than keeping the government in line. It's what we were bred to do. It comes down from 1776, Declaration of Independence. It's because we decided to keep a government that we deemed tyrannical in line. That's what the true definition of the cause is. Me being a young black American and being a part of the Sons of Confederate Veterans is a shock to a lot of people. The black Confederate soldier would have had to have been one of the hardest working soldiers there was. These are men who decided to take up a cause because in the end, it was their own cause. In fact, most owners wanted the slaves to stay back because that was how they were steadily making income. They made a choice to do something that was bigger than themselves. And that's why, as a black Confederate now, it is my duty that I owe them to do something greater than myself. Confederate history is American history, and you cannot separate the two. I am Sammy Travis, descendant of Private Benjamin Rowe, a Confederate veteran.
My dad told me he always had a kinship to the battle flag. Always growing up, he knew there was something there, but he couldn't put it together. I called my 97-year-old grandmother, and I asked her, do we have any soldiers in the family? I gave her 3 descriptions. Verde, which means green for modern-day soldier. Blue, azul, or gris, means gray. And she said, mijo, which means my son in Spanish, is gris. It was gray. My great-great-grandfather was named Andres Torres Rodriguez. He was born in Mexico. He was a laborer. And he was in 8th Texas Infantry, and his unit later on got incorporated to the Texas 33rd Cavalry under Santos Benavides, who was the highest Mexican-American Confederate officer. He was a colonel. There was over 13,000 Hispanic soldiers throughout the Confederate States, but out of those 13,000 were 2,500 Tejanos. And it's 2 words combined. Texas in Spanish is Tejas. Mexican in Spanish, Mexicano. You combine both words, Tejano. They contributed a lot for Southern independence. I think that they deserve respect, honor, and dignity under the Confederate flag that they fought for. There was people of color, Mexican people, and other Hispanics, and other people of color that fought in this war. Everyone's reason was different, but primarily they fought in this war for their independence and to protect their homeland. I joined the SCV because I'm extremely proud of my Confederate heritage. I have Confederate DNA. I just want to ensure that the present generation and future generations know and never forget the contributions of Hispanics in the War of Northern Aggression. I am Richard Luna Garcia, the great-great-grandson of Private Andres Torres Rodriguez, a Tejano Confederate soldier.
When my mother was in college, she danced with Confederate veterans. To me, it wasn't that far away. You know, my father knew this. My mother knew this. Almost 50 years ago, I joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans. In those days, we weren't concerned about saving monuments or any of those things. That wasn't necessary. In fact, none of us had any remote idea that it would ever come up. We can't just sit there and react. We have to be proactive. Or, as Robert E. Lee said, the best way to disrupt your enemy's plans is to strike first. Everyone should do all in his power to collect and disseminate the truth, in the hope that it may find a place in history and descend to posterity. History is not the relation of campaigns and battles and generals or other individuals, but that which shows the principles for which the South contended and which justified her struggle for those principles. If you're looking for some place to be where you think you're going to accomplish something to save our history, go to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. I'm Thomas Lee Jesse. I'm a descendant of Private Daughtery Gilmer, a Confederate veteran.
I am Rabbi Thomas Fortenberry. I'm a descendant of Isaac Fortenberry, a Confederate veteran. Many of the people in my family were veterans. As a military veteran, I served with the United States Army. It's important to veterans of all wars to remember those who have passed and what they did and what they suffered. Everyone who serves gives a part of themselves. The SCV is much a part of that. The SCV serves people, not only the people that are involved as members, but the community. My commitment to the SCV is a commitment to our heritage, our cause, not in a violent way nor an aggressive way, simply in the way we live. Live what you believe. But in your defense, know in what you're defending and defend it truthfully. May Yahovah bless you and keep you. May Yahovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace and blessing.
I've always been proud of my Confederate ancestry, but I never pursued becoming a member of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. It all changed in 2017 when I saw New Orleans take down their Confederate statues. Those monuments come down really lit a fire inside of me, and came to the conclusion I needed to join the Sons of Confederate Veterans. It's a domino effect. We give in on this, it's just a matter of time before they start taking down Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. We need to draw the line in the sand right now. These are our Confederate monuments, these are our Southern heroes, and you're not going to take them down. Our museum is going to be funded 100% by the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The history, the narrative that we present will be the narrative that we write, so it will be our story, our museum. Right now, if we do not protect our heritage and present it as it truly was, it's going to be lost forever. We're going to tell the true story here. I'm Adam Southern, and I'm a proud descendant of Private Alfred D. Southern, a Confederate veteran.
Okay, all right. We are getting ready to go into award season, and there are specific rules for the awards. There's an awards manual. I've already contacted Randy Burbidge. I don't know if he's up. Let's see if he's up there. No, he has not updated it yet. So there's instructions on doing award nominations. So if you're going to be handing out a meritorious service or distinguished service, then that is forms that you have to fill out right here, individual award nomination. So the camp level, this is where you would be filling it out for distinguished service, meritorious, commendation, leadership, or superior award. You fill that out completely, and the reason they're getting the award, make sure that you do not send that to headquarters. If you do, it goes into purgatory. Okay? It has to go through the chain. You have to send that to the awards committee. Well, actually, you have to send it to the division command. So at the camp level,
it started about 3 years ago. A controversy began with the political correct movement that was taking place in Memphis, and Forrest became a lightning rod.
They created a nonprofit group, a puppet organization, went in there in the middle of the night and removed the statue in violation of a number of laws.
Even if the statue got put back up, it wouldn't last a week. It'd be vandalized, destroyed, and that's when they started thinking about, well, why don't we move them?
We knew we had to move them to Middle Tennessee. We had to move them to the place where Forrest was born.
Amen.
If you're sending awards in, send an award in with who you think they need to, what they need to be recommended.
well, that award, you need to kick it back and say, oh, you didn't do the proper form.
That's pretty much what happened.
It's amazing. It is March, and I had a guy just last month had just now opened up his envelope. His last name was spelled wrong. I said, sir, we printed these back in June of last year. We will get you a correct one. I apologize for the error. Why did you wait 7 months? You know,
Probably didn't get it because he didn't attend anything.
Yeah.
And the manager finally caught up with him and said, here, I had this for you for 6 months.
Yeah. All right. Heritage Affairs donation forms. There's all kinds of forms on here for all kinds of donations.
Welcome to Moose Mania, brother. It's running wild at Nationals.
There is a place, nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs. Come and discover your history. There is a place, nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
but we will take change. One last thing, I've got 4 cigars that I'm gonna do as an auction or whatever sometime today. One is a Robert E. Lee, one's Patrick Claver, there's Nathan Bedford Forrest, and there's Stonewall Jackson. These came out at least 8-9 years ago. I haven't seen them since. Please tell me they've been in a humidor. No, they have not been in a humidor. I don't expect you to smoke it anyway, because then you've lost your cigar.
Those are way over 9 years. I won't say around 2007, 2008.
Maybe so. But, you know, they're firm, but if you light one up, it's probably just a little poof. They're gone. But you do have the pictures on there, on the little band, all of that. So I found them in a drawer, and somebody gave these to me. So, you know, whatever I can get for them is going in the jars back there. So I'll have them laying here. Real quick, we're going to take a 10-minute break before Carl comes up. So you got 10 minutes to head to the bathroom, stretch your legs, or whatever. But whatever time it is, who's got a cell phone?
Hey, 10:28, Miles.
It's what, 10:28?
Yes, sir.
All right, so somewhere about 10:42.
It started about 3 years ago. A controversy began with the political correct movement that was taking place in Memphis, and Forrest became a lightning rod.
They created a nonprofit group, a puppet organization, went in there in the middle of the night and removed the statue in violation of a number of laws.
Even if the statue got put back up, it wouldn't last a week. Why don't we move on?
There's no one alive today that could tell us where General Forrest and Mrs. Forrest were buried.
As we were digging away the dirt from in front of the statue, we discovered a flower cradle, and it said N.B. Forrest, 1877. We uncovered both the vaults, and they were side by side.
So can you raise it just a little bit more so we can get the strap? That's good. A little bit more.
Recognizing the enormity of the history that's involved with this, I wanted to make sure that it was done right.
This is one of those things that you can't fail on. You can't just halfway do this. You have to be invested. You have to go with it with all your heart and soul.
We're here to remember a hero, not just of the South, but an American warrior.
The line is drawn now. This is not just an attack on Confederate or Southern history. It's an attack on American history.
everybody in the back, maybe that's the front, sit down. If you're throwing money in the jar, I will give you an extra minute to get up here and sit down.
Well, the reason I pick on Carl so much is that y'all must be Baptist because everybody sat in the back. You sit up front, you're going to get picked on for what it is.
That's the reason I warned everybody come meet, don't sit up front.
It's kind of like going to the comedy club, you don't see a comedian.
All right. Carl is the AoT councilman. He is directly responsible for membership. So if you're having membership problems that you need help with, get in touch with Carl and he will get in there and try to help solve that problem.
That's what audio quality.
From the beginning to the left. Go left, 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 right. You're seeing, look right.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing something better than you. All right. Okay. So without further ado, Carl Jones, and he's going to be talking about recruiting and retention ideas.
Right or front?
Hey, speak up.
Carl just said that he will take questions during his presentation.
Or side.
You want to go?
Yeah, I need something to put my notes on.
Did you start using those?
I didn't say I was going to use them, I said I was going to put them down.
Put your mouth back in your pocket.
Yeah, I said that about the notes. Carl and I sometimes talk on the phone. There will be times that I feel like if we're having a discussion, I feel like I might be with you. And then he'll throw out some obscure, somebody who signed some declaration of Connecticut that I'm supposed to know. And at that point, I'm just,
And he asked me, so he told me that one time, he said, I'm not going to kid you. One time I thought, you know what, he might be BSing me, and I wouldn't know anybody. And so he went and looked up the quote and said, you said it almost word for word. Yeah. You were right. So I guess it's good to have a long memory. I told Connor Bond, I ain't going to do this to y'all, because I just don't think I can pull it off. I told Connor Bond last night, I said, when I get up there today, I'm going to say, hi, my name is Carl Jones, and I'm overweight.
Hi, Carl. Hi, Carl.
That's what my weight was. Obesity anonymous class. I do have a couple of quotes I want to give you. Talking about recruiting and retention, or in reference to recruiting and retention. This one is about B.C. Forbes. He was the founder of Forbes magazine. He made a statement. History has demonstrated that the most notable winners usually encountered heartbreaking obstacles before they triumphed. They won because they refused to become discouraged by their defeats. Another one, this one is by Leonardo da Vinci. It had long come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sit back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. Okay, so I'm going to open today by saying, number one, thank y'all for being here. It's been my experience over the years. I've been an SCB member for 18 years, and I've done a lot of functions at every level of the SCB. Traveling the country, talking to one of my friends I met at one of these seminars in Texarkana, Texas, 4 or 5 years ago. I've been to a lot of different divisions, the other armies, and it's been my experience throughout all of that, that the the camps that attend these are also the least likely, least ones that need to be here a lot of times. If you look around at the camps that are missing, they're probably the ones that need to be here. They need to hear what the speakers are all going to tell them today. And that certainly involves recruiting and retention. I got to thinking about this. Why do we do what we do? Jimmy and I talked about it. Connor and I talked about this. Wayne Willingham, my camp commander here, and I talked about this. But if you get involved in the SCV, it can take up as much of your life as you want to. We can spend an immense amount of time doing things in the SCV. To give you an example, since the first of the year, I don't like the beach. I'm not a beach person. I live on a 22-acre wooded area, Coleman County, Alabama. Tell everybody I'm so far back in the country, we got to go towards town to hunt. And I like it. I live there for a reason. I like it. I don't like the beach. But I've been to the beach 3 times this year, 3 times in 4 weeks. And 2 of those were going to Beauvoir on SCV business. A week before the SD Lee Institute, where I was speaking, and I learned a lesson down there. Don't pick on Don Kennedy when he speaks after you. But a few days before that, I spoke to the UDC in Birmingham. I don't even know how many camp meetings or lectures to various camps since the first year. So you spend a lot of time traveling and doing things for the SCV. I don't always do it because I like it. Believe it or not, I really like to get up and talk all that much. No reaction from the female. But we do what we do for, I think the reason I joined the SCV was not that I needed to be a part of an organization. I'll be honest, I wasn't that interested in the campaigns and battles of the war. I joined the SCV because I believe in the cause and the principles that the Confederate soldiers stood for. And I think that it is incumbent upon us to keep that history alive.
Amen, brother.
If this organization dies, I firmly believe America is toast. We got a major problem because right now, the SCV is one of the few, and I think the most effective organization keeping alive not only the history of the war, but the history of those principles that those men offered their lives to defend. And they are American principles. The South is real American. It is. It always has been. But we're losing that. And we have got to add to our numbers. If you're not growing, you're dying. If your camp's not growing, your camp's dying. All right? Because all of us ain't going to be on this earth into eternity. So we've got to replace ourselves. We've got to have growth. And I don't mean that just your camp's survival depends on your ability to grow. I firmly believe that the survival of our country depends on our ability to grow. I believe that. So how do we approach recruiting? I'm going to talk about recruiting and retention. And I've got them divided into 2 segments. And the first thing I will say, let me tell you, I've been a member of big camp, I've been a member of small camp, I've been a member of 2 camps. And when I transferred into Thomas Jefferson Diddy Camp in Coleman, Alabama, it was a small camp, it's not a small camp anymore. Wow. Started start doing the things we need to do to grow. But Wayne and I can remember a day when we had 5 people at your average meeting. And then when Wayne became commander, 2012, 2013, I think it was, he started implementing some of the things I'm going to talk about today, and what was the result? Growth. Resurrection. And I've seen that happen over and over and over again. One of the things I've noticed about camps is the camps that thrive, there's a relationship between what they're doing that causes them to thrive. And when they sink, a lot of those camps are doing the same thing as well. Everything you do is related to recruiting and retention. All of it. If you're doing fundraising right, it's a recruiting tool. If you're doing any kind of community service right, it's a recruiting tool. Because you're establishing your image in your area, in your community, community. But one of the things I did when I was a camp second lieutenant commander of the Joe Wheeler camp in Birmingham was to have a recruiting plan. Your second lieutenant commander is your recruiting officer in your camp. And I advise what you do. This is some things I've learned along the way over the years. If I could go back in time and do that job differently, one of the things I would do is I would have a camp recruiting committee. Have a committee made up of people who are interested in doing the things that are going to help that camp grow to attract new members. Your second lieutenant commander can set this, he's the committee chair, as I did. All right, you may do it different, that's fine. But as I did, he would be the committee chair. And he would pick 2, 3, 4, however many other people on that committee. It's important that we pick the right people for these offices and for these committees. You don't want your shy member sitting behind a recruiting table. You don't want your newest member who doesn't really understand what the SCB is, how it functions, at manning your recruiting table. You need people that are well-spoken, that understand the workings of your camp, that understand the SCB. Your committee members need to have what we call in the sales business an elevator speech. Okay? That means that's going to get me from the ground, it's going to get me off the ground with this prospective member. My elevator speech was generally something like this. I would say, the Sons of Confederate Veterans is a 501c charitable organization. We were founded in 1896 by the veterans themselves. They gave us the charge to perpetuate their history and the true history of the South, to vindicate their cause. That's what we exist to do. We are a nationally 30,000 member organization. We are non-sectarian, non-racial, non-political, and we invite you to join. Your only qualification for joining is that you're the male descendant of a Confederate soldier. And that would be my opening talk, and then engage them in conversation from there. Now, you don't have to use my talk. Come up with one of your own, put it in your own words. But you need to have people on this committee that are willing to speak, that are well-spoken, and they understand the organization, and they're motivated to help you grow. All right, second of all, the second lieutenant commander reports and coordinates with his camp commander. The camp commander ultimately is in charge of everything. Okay, he's the guy that takes the hit if you do well. He's the guy that takes the credit if you do, or takes the hit if you do bad. He takes the credit if you do well. And that's okay. But it's his job, it's his duty to ensure that his camp officers are functioning the way they should. And I would, as a camp commander, what I would recommend you do, once you get get this, say, lieutenant commander in place. If you don't have one, let's say right now you're 7-man camp, and you don't have this guy that I'm talking about. You don't have the guy that's well versed enough to go out and speak in public. All right, what you got to do is you got to recruit that guy. It's going to be on you. You got to find him, and then you got to train him. And then this perpetuates itself. We're constantly training new officers. They may not know that's what we're doing, but that's what we're doing. Okay? But then you need to coordinate with him. You need to come up with a plan, with a recruiting plan. Some of y'all know that in my other life, I'm a firearms instructor. And I teach concealed carry classes, and I teach home defense classes. And I tell everybody, every student that comes through, the time to have a self-defense plan is not when you're being attacked. You can't come up with that plan on the fly. If you do, it ain't gonna work very well. Okay, you're gonna make stuff up as you go along, and you'll get hurt. So you got to have that plan in place before the attack commences. Same thing on recruiting. If you go out and take the approach to recruiting, let's throw a bunch of crap toward the wall and see what sticks, you're going to fail. You're setting yourself up for failure. So by plan, what I mean is look at the opportunities in your area, in your community. What are some things that we can get involved in that will help our name? Somebody, I think, mentioned it maybe today or wow, I've been to so many meetings last few months. Once I can't keep them all straight. Somebody mentioned, I heard somewhere recently about growth by being involved in other community organizations, like maybe the Rotary Club or your Chamber of Commerce. These would be examples of opportunities, but also a lot of us are from the rural South. And small towns like to have festivals. That's a good opportunity for you to have a booth. So look ahead of time and identify, okay, we want to be in this festival and that festival, and here's our opportunity. Now, a lot of you say, well, my town won't let us in. The reactionary approach to that, and this all relates to recruiting, the reactionary approach to that is, oh, they threw us out of the festival, let's file a lawsuit. That hasn't worked in our favor very well.
Here, here.
And I don't think it's going to.
Amen.
The proactive approach to that would be to have started building relations in that community ahead of time, so they want you involved in their community. Community relations are extremely important. Some of y'all heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm going to try not to mess this up, so I'm going to say it sometimes I'm going to quote myself. Involvement in your community will lead to relationships, and relationships will lead to opportunities. So get involved and show a positive image in your community, and some of these opportunities for recruitment will open up to you. As Jimmy said years ago, I heard him say this a long time ago, and this was an approach that his camp took, and growth resulted from it, was the Sons of Confederate Veterans in the local community should not be seen any differently by that community than the Civitan Club or the VFW or any other civic organization. Okay? So you've got to start building relationships in that community, and these opportunities will present themselves. Positivity is a good thing. It works for you. Now look, there's probably Ron and Donnie Kennedy are sitting back there. They might be the only two in this room that can bash Lincoln better than me. All right? I love to bash Abraham Lincoln because he was tired. All right? But your average person out there who doesn't know what we know about history, if you go up and start spinning all this factual stuff, you're liable to scare that guy to death. So talk about the positives of our organization. What are some positives? We're from the South. It was Southerners who initiated the American move towards independence from England. It was a Southerner who wrote the Declaration of Independence. 4 of your first 5 presidents of the United States were from the South. And by the way, John Adams was the only Yankee of that generation to run for president. He has the dubious distinction of being the only one from the founding generation not elected to a second term. Because he was defeated by a Southerner. His son went on to be the second, not elected to a second term, defeated by a Southerner. So the South has contributed innumerable, almost everything good that you can think of in America was contributed to America by Southerners. These are positives. Your ancestor fought to uphold the very same cause that his grandfather fought to uphold in the American Revolution. Your average Southerner was an upstanding, God-fearing family man who didn't like his home and country being invaded by an aggressive government. And so he interposed his own body. He stopped everything going on in his life and went to war to prevent this. He was noble. We've got to instill pride in our people about who their ancestors were. I told somebody a long time ago, one of the problems we have in the SCV is we're trying to convince people to be proud of their Confederate heritage when they have been propagandized for their entire life, not even be proud of being Southern anymore. We've got to overcome that. But there's still a lot of Southern people out there who are proud. They may not know it. They may not know why they're proud, so we got to give that information to them. Here's why. Here's why I joined the SCV. Here's what my ancestors represented, likely so did yours. Okay, so keep your message positive. Talk about the positive attributes of the Southern soul. You can later nurse these people along to come to a more in-depth understanding of what the North goal really was all about. But I'm telling you, if you don't put on up front, the average Southerner is not a radical. We're not radical people. We're conservative people by nature. It's in our DNA. It's part of our culture. And so if you have this radical message, a lot of times, you're going to scare a lot of our people off. You've got to build that into the message into them over time through education. But up front, you've got to have a positive image. All right, so some ideas of some opportunities in your area may include reenactments, living histories, local festivals, gun shows. Think about who attends a gun show. Red-blooded, God-fearing America. As Ted Nugent put it, God, guns, and rock and roll. All right, and my personal preference would be God, guns, and buck Owens, but that's me. All right, whoever you want in the country. Any place in your community that will allow you to have a place. If you don't have one, if you've got a bad reputation in your community, they're scared of you, they're intimidated by our flag or symbol, you got to get to know that community. You got to get to know those people and do it positively. Law Enforcement Appreciation Day started in my camp, by the way, and became a national, SCV national agenda. That's an opportunity every August to get to know your local sheriff, your local police chief. Take them pizza, go to the barbecue, get to know them. Fan Tifa comes to your town, wants to carry your money down, the sheriff's a pretty good guy to have on your side. If they know what we're about in my community, they know us, they love us. Because we've built up those relationships. And y'all need to do the same thing. When you have an event, a booth, you need to have a presence there. Okay, so not only do you not want to put the guy at your booth who's afraid want more than one person there, Jim. I heard Ron, and I think it was Nani said this the other night, actually. Don't fill your booth out with all guys dressed in Confederate uniforms. That's right. We want to look like a modern organization. You might have that guy there who's dressed like, well, sort of like me, because I'm in blue jeans. And this is a workshop, so I wore work boots and work clothes today. But you might want to have one guy there to you might want to have a guy there that's more business casual, khaki pants and a pullover shirt. But look at your the demographics. What is the demographics of your area? And how the people who are dressed up in your area dress. I've been to churches where dress clothes was a starch white shirt, brand new pair of overalls. Amen. All right, nothing wrong with that. In fact, I tend to trust those people more. But look like a modern organization. I'm not saying don't have a guy there with a Confederate uniform, because that attracts people. But don't look like, we don't want to send the message that we are a reenactment organization.
Or a militia.
Or what?
Or a militia.
Or a militia, right. We want to look like what we are, which is a historical organization.
Carl, you've often said, and it's something that they all need to focus in this whole presentation, is we don't need to narrow our talk to poor.
I'm getting there.
All right.
Sorry, he didn't raise his hand, so I didn't have time to jump over there.
I told Robert, you interrupted Eric so many times, you're out of interruption. You know, I think you were doing that in my defense. You were trying to stop him from killing me, but he's trying to kill me off. One of the biggest things I found that led to successful recruiting events is the most simple thing that you can do. And yet I almost never see camps doing this. And that is to very simply, at any booth you set up, whether it's my camp, we raise about $6,000 a year in barbecue sales. 2 events a year. But those barbecue sales are not just money makers for us. We have hundreds of people over the course of 2 days coming up to us and talking to us and driving by and honking their horn because they see all those battle flags lining Highway 278 through our town. It's a recruiting event. It's an opportunity for us to be seen and to project a positive image in our community, okay? But we do 2 of those a year, and at any time, let me finish this one, I'll get your question. Because if I don't, I almost forgot what I was going to say there. I had to look at my notes to get back to it. Have a notepad, a simple notepad and a pen, and when somebody comes up to you and expresses an interest, simply write down their name and contact information. And then part of your recruiting officer's job is to follow up with that person. Follow up is the key to winning sales. And that's essentially what we're doing, is selling our organization and our camp to the general public. All right, now when I say follow up, I don't mean call them and then forget about them. I mean call them, email them. How many of the camps have a paper newsletter? Any of you still putting out paper newsletters? Your new prospects need to be on your mailing list for a minimum of 3 to 6 months. Because they might, it's just like in advertising. I used to tell people all the time, on average, I don't remember the exact statistic, this is going to be close, but I saw advertising statistics years ago when I was in the advertising business, that the average person would see a billboard 12 times before he would respond to that billboard. Okay, it's the same way in this. They come by your booth, oh yeah, I like your barbecue and I'm interested in this, and then you don't follow up, you ain't gonna get them. Most of the time. Probably 98% of the time you won't get them. But if you will simply contact them, send them your newsletter, send them your meeting reminder, I recommend, I still think a printed newsletter is the way to go. I think if we don't have one, you're missing an opportunity. But at the bare minimum, call them and remind them, we got a meeting coming up, we'd like you to join or to come. Yes, sir.
Carl, one thing that we've done, we do electronic newsletters, but if you got somebody like that, you can print it off, mail it to them. It's not against the law.
No.
So
that's right. However you want to do it, and frankly, whatever they prefer. But the point is to follow up and follow up and follow up again, because it's probably going, a lot of times, going to be that third or fourth contact before they respond. Now, here's another thing. You've got to give them a reason to come to your meeting. I'm still another line from Jimmy Hill. You are competing for their time. And I'm going to get into this more in retention. I'm going to talk about this more in retention, but I'm going to say it right now. Let them know why they need to come to your meeting. We've got a speaker who's going to talk about Gettysburg this month. The program is what gets them there most of the time. Okay? So if you get them to the meeting, now you're going to have a better opportunity to get them to join. What was your statement?
Well, it actually was a question. It was going to be on the subject of you doing your fundraiser, your barbecue fundraiser.
Yeah.
Make sure that you've got signage out there, because y'all's camp is not doing that just to take money into the camp.
Right.
Y'all are using that to give money back to the community.
That's right.
When you show them that you're giving your money like y'all did a food bank, that gives you a place in that person goes, oh, really? Y'all are actually giving this money back to the community.
Yeah.
And that will attract them to come to your meetings to find out, how do I get involved?
Yeah, that's right. And my buddy Jamie over here, they do a big deal for children's home in their area every year. Now, let me tell you something. Your SCV camp may not be able to get your name in the local newspaper, but guess who can? That charitable organization that you're raising money for. All right? We've had one or two photo ops in our local, and our local paper is not necessarily friendly to us, okay? But when that when Lane walks over there and hands a $2,000 check to the local food bank for children, that guy can get that in the paper. Okay? So like Jimmy's saying, let your community know here's where the money's going, and you're showing community involvement. And you're giving back. I've always said patriotism, we say in our Constitution, we're a patriotic organization. Well, in the vernacular of our ancestors, patriotism meant local. It wasn't some national American identity. It started at home. It was an allegiance to your community. That's what real patriotism is, in my opinion. So you got that opportunity there. Follow up again is crucial. I'll give you another idea. This is what I've seen work with my own eyeballs. And that is, I have become convinced over the years that every camp needs to have a genealogist. If you can make it personal to that respective member, not just some obscure man somewhere back in your family tree went to war. No, his name was Joseph Henson. My ancestor, I'll be one number. He fought the 6th Florida Infantry Regiment from Perryville to Camden, North Carolina. And then after the war, he started 2 churches. These people don't know this about their own ancestors. I didn't know it until I found out. Okay? But if you can show them, here is your direct connection to our organization. It's a sense of pride. It's a sense of belonging. It makes them want to be a part of what we're doing. Because now it's their family that they're defending. It's his good enough, their own family, flesh and blood. And we are a very family-oriented people in the South. Next thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to move on to retention, is recruit everybody. If they don't have an ancestor, I don't care. for the Friends of the SCV. Invite them to your members. You might set up a camp associate member. It's not recognized legally by national, but your camp can do it. But we have got to build our numbers. I always use the special forces analogy. Everybody, most of y'all, I probably told you I'm a Marine. If you ever been a Marine, you're gonna know he's a Marine. He's gonna tell you, okay? So I was in the Marines. Back when I was in, we didn't have special forces. We were Marines, not special forces. But some of that's changed now. The Green Berets are not what you see on TV generally. They're not the guys that go out and do the fighting. What they are is they are a force multiplier. So they'll drop a team of Green Berets into a friendly, in a hostile country where they believe there is a friendly people there who can be trained. And the Green Berets' duty is to train these indigenous people and multiply their forces that way. They're training them to fight for themselves. It's called force multiplication. That's what the Army Special Forces or the Green Berets Special Forces, that's what they do. We can do the same thing. We have got to have allies, not just members, but activists, people who are willing to take up our mantle and to help us, even if they're not qualified to be a member. They may be empathetic towards what it is we're doing. And you're going to find that in most communities, especially most small towns, rural areas, there is a very large segment of your population that morally supports you, okay? The problem with moral support is it doesn't help you. You can sit back on your couch and say, I like what he's doing, but if you don't join the fight and help him, you ain't accomplished nothing. And we got a lot of those people out there. We got a lot of our own members out there. But broaden your horizons. And when you find that person in your community that says, well, I'm not qualified to join, but I support you. Okay, you support us, great. I need your name and contact information, because periodically throughout the year, I'm going to need your help. I'm going to need you to make a phone call. I'm going to need you to send an email. I'm going to need you to write a letter to somebody. Will you do that for me? We'll help you. We'll pay the postage. All right, but imagine if you've got a 50-man camp and your state, and each one of those camp members recruits 10 people who are willing to write that letter or send that email. You just multiplied your force from 50 to 500. Ask Dr. Kennedy how much effect 500 people will have on a local election or a state election. Okay, so if that congressman who has gone off in a wayward direction, away from our cause, if he gets 500 emails or postcards saying, I support Southern Heritage, he might sit back and rethink what he's doing. We've got to multiply our numbers, not just in membership, but in activists and people who have the same interest in what we do as we do. Well, and if we can find an ancestor, we will. That's where your genealogy comes in. I got your background in genealogy. We did a festival in Oaks Bluff, again, Alabama, small town. Confederate Railroad came in and played this big concert. There were about probably 5,000 people there. We set up a booth doing all the things I'm talking about. We had a presence there. There were about 9 SCV members from that brigade, and you had several camps that pitched in to pull this off. That's another thing. Work with the camps in your area. But they came in. We had our division genealogist. We paid Jimmy. I was division commander at the time, but we approved $100 or whatever it was from the division budget, I think, to buy that brigade a hotspot, or no, but buy our division genealogist a hotspot where he could connect to the internet anywhere. So he sat there at that event with a great big sign up said free genealogy. And he was worn out. I don't know how many people's trace that day, but it was a lot. And
he actually signed up the.
I'm getting there. Tom Johnson, who became a good friend of mine and passed away, unfortunately, a few months ago. But he was the tour manager for Confederate Railroad. And Harold sat there and printed out about 50 pages of his family tree. And Tom was just absolutely ecstatic to learn all of this. And he and I had several phone conversations. He was so excited, he asked me, well, what camp should I join? And I told him, I said, look, you know, I'm an Alabama guy, I said, and I'd love to have an Alabama division, but he lived in Chattanooga. I said, honestly, it would be a better service to you to join your local camp. Visit 2 or 3 of them in your area and find out which one you like the best to join that camp. Because my interest is not in padding my numbers. It's in getting members that are going to enjoy their membership. Amen. Okay? So he called me the night he joined from the camp meeting in Chattanooga, just ecstatic. Hey man, I just want to let you know, I'm joining the SCB tonight. And it was all because we had a guy sitting there at a festival, a county festival, doing free genealogy work. And I think we wound up recruiting, I think Harold told me, close to 8 people for various camps that one day. For various camps in Alabama that one day. So if you can get somebody who has an interest in genealogy, I know every camp may or may not be able to do that. You can, you just may not realize you can. But I used to do it. If I can do it, anybody can figure it out. But at least try to set one up in your brigade. Have somebody in your brigade, and y'all pitch in money and buy him that hotspot so he can come to these events and do this, and you'll find a lot of people interested in joining. All right, from there,
Carl?
Yes, sir.
Quickie. I agree 100%. We have a genealogist, he sets up, and he'll find somebody's ancestor, got a printer there, he'll print out a photograph of them. We've had people join right then and there. They're so excited. One thing I want to mention is we do 4 gun shows a year, and that's a clientele, and we usually get some recruits and members at that. But we also set up at our county fair. Sure. That's a different clientele coming through there.
We do.
It's just the gun show people. And we've had him set up with the free genealogy. We've signed up members there too, but that's a different clientele. So think outside the box.
Yeah.
We get invited, I'm Tommy's camp, we get invited to participate in, this year already, we did 3 Mardi Gras parades in 3 different little towns. They love us.
Yeah.
We've done, last year we did 7 Christmas, Veterans Day, and Mardi Gras parades. Each year I go up to the county commission in Bainbridge, Alabama. They give us a Confederate history proclamation, and then I give them a small historical speech, which is televised. So,
well, I want to give you another thing, going back to this along the lines, Tommy, y'all reminded me of this. I've been to y'all's camp, I spoke down there, and I know, well, we've had to have a couple of committee reunions down there as well. And they've got a great reputation in their local community because they've done most of these things I'm talking about. Okay? Here's another point I want to make. I mentioned lawsuits have not generally worked in our favor. And they probably never will. Very seldom. Okay? So let's say that you got a long involvement in your local festival or your Christmas parade or whatever, and suddenly the leadership of your local area changes and you get new leaders in who don't like us for whatever reason. They're scared of that flag. Remember those 500 activists I told you about? They're the ones that change that guy's mind and get you back in that parade. I know this. This is not my theory. I know it because I saw it happen in Alabama. We had a local camp that had been doing the parade for years. They had a great reputation in their local community. They're one of our most active, long-standing active camps. And all of a sudden, the city council decided, yeah, we only let them in our parade, or they can't have that flag in our parade. The community came to their defense. The community rose up on their behalf and contacted the local officials, and they got back in the parade. So our numbers, numbers are not something that we need to accrue for the simple fact of having numbers. Now, there's a purpose behind it, and it needs to extend outside of just membership. We have got to have allies in our community. I believe that's how I've been preaching this for a long time. This is close to the message you heard me say down in Texarkana, that community involvement is crucial. All right, how much time have I got there?
About 25 minutes.
Okay, I heard 45 minutes.
11:32.
Okay. All right, so retention, here's the deal. Connor and I talked about this the other night. By the way, if you'll watch, how many of you watch SCB chat? Good, that's good. Please be every percent, but I'll take the 60 or whatever that was, all right? That's a start. But watch it. If you go to the last episode they did, on Thursday night, they actually, Connor and Moose back there actually talked about recruiting and retention. So you'll get a lot of good information. I'm a big fan of the chat. Y'all see me comment and usually picking up somebody on there in the comments. But watch that. It's another tool we got in our arsenal to reach the general public. And you can go back here.
If you can't watch it live, watch the repeat.
Yeah, watch the repeat. That's how most people watch it. But they talk about a lot of these things, a lot of ideas and issues that we face. There's a lot of history presentations on there as well. But the last one they did was on recruiting and retention. So if you forget something I said, go back and pull up that video from Thursday night, and you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff. Okay. All right, retention. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Y'all going to get mad at me. I hope we ban tomatoes at the door, because I don't want to be throwing tough with tomatoes. But I'm going to break some bad news to you. Recruiting or retention of our membership is almost 100% on you. It's not on the national organization. It's not on your division commander. It is on the local camp. If you do not have a well-run camp, that prospect that you met at the gun show is going to come to one meeting, and he is never coming back. Because you bored him to death, or your meeting was unstructured, or he didn't like something, or somebody was rude to him. You have got to have a well-run camp meeting, and you've got to have a reason for him to want to turn out to that meeting again and again and again. And this goes for all of your members. If you start seeing member or meeting attendance drop, guess what's going to follow? Retention. So ideas that I've jotted down. Wait a minute, I got to go wrong right page here. A well-run camp has an effective camp commander with at least 3 or 4 supporting officers. First lieutenant, second lieutenant, maybe your chief of staff. Definitely you got to have good adjutant. Maybe your chaplain, but you need a core group of people, because the camp commander cannot do it all himself. If your camp commander is trying to do every job, you're going to run him off. He's going to burn himself out, and he's not going to be very effective for very long. Okay? So the camp commander needs to fill out these other positions. Either do election appointment, however you'll do it at camp, and then work with them to fulfill their duties. If you look at the camp handbook, Eric brought it up, and I'm going to echo what he said. Read that handbook, because one of the things it will tell you there what the duties of your officers are. So coordinate with them to fulfill their duties. This is just a simple basic of a well-run camp. Have a camp executive council. So you get these offices filled out, just like we have a division executive council, a general executive council, a national. Do the same thing in your camp. And these 4, 5, 6, 7 officers, however many there are, y'all need to be in communication with each other. And I'll tell you a little secret, your average member does not like to come to a meeting and hear business. All business. If your meeting is all business, you're going to lose some folks. All right? Not everybody's a geek like me and wants to hear business all the time. Most of them are going to want to come and hear a program, a speaker, on a subject that's interesting to them. So how do we get around this? You have to discuss some business in your meeting because it's a business session. And in addition to be a meeting or a program. All right, so if your camp executive council is set up, what y'all can do is to discuss, y'all may meet once a month, or you may discuss it by email or what have you. I recommend getting together once a month. But iron out all of the camp business. Here's what we're going to do here, here's what we're going to do there, here's what we're going to do over here. And then you report back to your camp, here's what we decided. Now, camp can overturn anything you decide. All right, but the idea is that instead of standing up there for an hour and talking about all the things your camp is doing, you can narrow it down to about 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe, by reporting out that our camp executive council met, and here's what leadership thinks we should do on this issue, that issue, whether it's a fundraiser, whether it's whatever it is, and report it out, and then that way, the program is the centerpiece of your meeting, because that's who people are coming. That's what, like I said, Jimmy said a long time ago, you're competing for their time. If your meeting is boring, and they'd rather stay home and watch Dancing with the Stars, or whatever some of these stupid shows are, they're going to do that over a boring meeting. All right, so on the other hand, if your meeting is entertaining and educational, they're going to want to be there. We got a perfect example in Alabama. Gary Carlisle's camp in the Cavalry Rifles. If they have less than 50 or 60 people at a camp meeting, something's wrong. Whole families attend this meeting because they make it fun. It's a community event that people want to come to. A good camp meeting is also well organized. Don't fly by the seat of your pants. Have an agenda. Follow the agenda. Don't make it up as you go. Set an amount of time for business and follow that time. What are you laughing about back there?
Thanks, boss.
Oh.
That's it, boss.
I don't have any eraser. I don't think I can go that far anyway. Keep frivolous discussion to a minimum in the business session.
That dog's all fun.
If your camp commander is standing up there with a room full of 25, 30 people, and he's off here in left field talking to Jimmy about, yeah, tire went flat on my tractor yesterday. Well, what'd you do? Well, I got a new tire. The rest of the room sitting on, what the hell are they talking about? I don't care about this. So he's got to be well organized, and you got to cater to the entire group. Nobody wants to hear it.
You call that chasing rabbits.
Chasing rabbits. That's right. But the program is the backbone of the meeting. And that's what people are coming to hear. That's what gets them to the meetings, what gets them back to the meeting. Now here's the thing. Advertise your speaker to the general public, especially the educators or influential people in your local community. Hey, we've got a guy, Rich Garcia, is coming at our meeting Tuesday night to talk about Latino Confederados. Somebody in your community may or may not be a member. They might have an interest in that. Don Kennedy is coming to give a lecture on Robert E. Lee. Okay, we did one brigadier general, retired Army brigadier general, that has written 3 or 4 books on general forest, and he's spoken at least camp several times as well in Athens. And we had him in Coleman a couple years ago to do a program on the forest straight grade, which came right through our county. And we broadcast this out to the public. How many people we have at that meeting, Wayne? About 50, 60 people. And less than half of them were our members. Out of that 50, 60 people that attended, I'm going on memory, I think there were 18 that were in the SCV. So now you've got the general public coming to your meeting. What's that an opportunity to do? To recruit, right? They see what we're all about. But it's also a good retention tool. If you don't have a good camp meeting, people will stop coming. The camp needs to be well structured. The meeting needs to be entertaining, needs to be informative, educational, and community oriented. Have camp projects. Try to do at least 2, widely community involved projects, 1 or 2 a year. In my camp, one that we do that we don't do it for the attention, but it winds up getting a lot of positive attention, is decorating the soldiers' graves in our county at Christmas time with homemade wreaths. The camp gets together, they make wreaths, and they go out and put them on the graves. And we've had people that contact us and thank us. May not even be their ancestors. They're just happy somebody's looking out for that veteran. Lee's camp, they do a cemetery cleanup, once, twice, 3, 4 times a year. Tommy's camp did they restored a monument that was taken down in Tampa, Florida, and they were able to get a hold of it and re-erect it at Point Clear Cemetery in their area. That's a big deal. That's a big victory, and it gets a lot of public attention. Camp meetings I've been to that do these things have great attendance and they have great retention. It ain't accidental. It's not by happenstance that a lot of people just decide to show up. Camp 33 in Murfreesboro, great example. I've spoken there, I don't know, 2 or 3 times over the last few years. And the room that I assume they still meet at the library or the museum or whatever, I think the museum. Man, I won't say they had 60, 70 people. It was standing room only. Why? Because they have a good program. They have a good meeting. I'm not saying I have a good program. I was amazed my buddy, brother James Ford, who we just lost recently from that camp. I told him the second time I spoke, that must have made him mad. I don't usually get asked back the second time, but they did have him back. But one of the big mistakes that I want to call it a mistake, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, it kind of is related to demographics of your area. 5 minutes, okay, and I'm finished after this. Is centering your camp around one thing, okay? I know in Jamie's camp, you got a lot of bike, a lot of mechanized cavalry. Other camps, you might have a reenactment camp. Well, that can be good and bad. We do both reenactment and, okay. That can work up to a point, but think about this. If I got a guy, I'm a division second lieutenant commander, I'm a brigade commander, and a guy calls me from a particular area, and I find out he's not interested in reenacting, I can't put him in that camp if that's all they do. So you can have that single focus, but what I'm telling you is in your camp meeting, don't just talk about reenactment, talk about SCV stuff. To broaden your horizons, to broaden your appeal to the general public. All right. If you come there and all we talk about is this reenactment we do once a year, the only people you're gonna have at that camp is guys that are interested in dressed up uniform and reenactment. So you gotta. It's okay to put on that reenactment or have that a children's ride or do this project or that project. I've seen camps all also their whole, it's all centered around festivals and money making. Okay, well, if you got people there that aren't in festivals and that's all you do, they're not going to. So you can have that singular focus, but don't project that exclusively in your camp. Okay, is what I'm getting at. Because you're going to limit your appeal in that area. Just my experience, they got a real successful camp, so y'all doing something right. So I'm not picking on the Met Cal. I love the Met Cal, and I'm a member and all that. But I'm just saying, just food for thought that you might, if that's all we talk about is this ride or that reenactment or this festival, you're going to narrow your focus down. It's going to be less appealing to a lot of people. Okay, so give them a more broad-based reason, representation of the SCD in general, in addition to what you're doing. Okay, with your primary interest. That makes sense. And that's pretty much what y'all do. Is not. Yeah.
That's so much money. Toy run raised. What we raised this year.
It was over 10,000. I know. $17,000 they donated to the local children. So there you go. So there you go. You've got this a great example of a camp that is very well liked and known in their local community. Now you look at David, he's been over with what to do, but he's friendly, and now they know that. They ain't scared of him. We're not, it's an appealing thing, and it's very good representation of what we do. All right, last thing I'm going to tell you is very short. To the point. Retention is won or lost by the front of your camp. Very simple. If you are doing some of the things, and I'm just not all exclusive, I'm thinking with a broad brush here. If you're doing the things that I'm telling you, I'm not just making this stuff up. This is what I have seen that has caused either success or failure over the 18 years or so that I've been in the SCB. So apply it, have a well-run camp meeting, get involved in your brigade, get involved in your division, get involved in your organization, get involved in your community, and opportunities will present themselves. Thank y'all. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'll talk what. Yes.
I saved them all to the end. The other part, all right, time's up. The main thing is, I was talking about the program. We honor the Confederate veterans and what they stood for and stuff, but we cannot just focus on that 4 years, because what they were fighting for was the thing that they honored their ancestors to do. If you're trying to get involved with civic groups like the American Legion, the VFW, don't focus on a Confederate program every time. Branch out. Bring somebody that followed the Vietnam War's got a story. Somebody who's a veteran of World War II, if there's any left, or Korea. Bring outside interest into your camp so that these people that are not members will say, hey, you got a pretty good program. I'm going to go see this guy speak on, stuff like that.
I saw
pride in your camp.
I saw a speaker come to a program one time on period clothing. And I thought, this is going to be the boringest freaking meeting I've ever been. And I was wrong. And it was well attended. And Mike and Joe, their camp in Bibb County is another example. They're a reenactment camp. Okay, in other words, they do a reenactment, and they got a lot of reenactors in their camp, but that's not all you discuss.
No, it's two separate entities. I tell them, camps come to me about this problem all the time, about the cavalry, about reenactment, and I tell them, you've lost focus. Your camp is an SCB camp. You need to maintain the SCB thought process that I'm a member of an SCB camp, but I also belong to the cavalry. And what I tell these cavalry, I'm a cavalry captain, past captain, 20 years in the cavalry, but I could not be a member of the cavalry if I was not SCB. And you have to learn, there is a pyramid, and SCB, everything else. I know reenactors can be on the side, their own organization, but if you're a member of a camp and you're a reenactor, if you get the camp involved, the camp is still the SCB. They are the core of
about the first 30 minutes or so, they did all their SCV stuff. Then the camp commander got up and said, we're fixing to do our mechanized cavalry portion. If you're not interested in the cavalry, then you're free to go if you want to. A lot of these people stayed on because they wanted to hear what the other guys were doing. And then finally, they got to their reenactment part about 30 minutes later. Their whole meeting took an hour and a half. Some people stayed for the whole hour and a half. Some people got up and left. Just get your SCV stuff out of the way first, and then do the other and roll into it. You may recruit that SCV guy, because I learned a long time ago, I'm a member of the Mechanized Cavalry. My ride from, I didn't ride a motorcycle, but I rode from the straight range monument back to where their ride was. I was the last car at the tail end of the motorcycles. That kept anybody that was visiting around them. I was the blocker, I guess. I could have moved over and kept them moving around. So try to keep all that going in line. All right, we're fixing to eat lunch.